Hey everyone, welcome back to the sunnyside.net, where we have weekly love horoscopes that I write for the Echo newspapers and good old Supernatural. Kamloops, BC. We have hypnosis style guided meditations, of course, to help you mending broken hearts and to help you find true love. There's some fun waking hypnosis and covert hypnosis and NLP kind of tips and tricks you can use in your waking everyday life, and some fun astrology videos as well. Normally I say I like this one, but this is not an astrology one. This is a different one. And today I'm going to show you guys the top 5 ways to spot a player. You know, some questions have been going around. Hey Sonny, I think I'm getting played by this guy, or I think this girl's just using me. And so I'm going to give you the top 5 ways to spot a player. Hi everyone, I'm Sonny. Okay, and as always, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. You know, subscribe to the channel, share it on Facebook or on a YouTube playlist. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to address them in the weekly love horoscopes videos, which come out usually every Thursday. Alright, here we go. Alright, what's a player? Alright? Well, a player is only in the game for themselves. A player is selfish, they're predatory, and only looking for their own good time. Players lie, they cheat and manipulate to get their own way. They're deceptive, they're dishonest, and they have almost no remorse. And worst of all, most players, both men and women, know exactly what they're doing. And I've heard it, you know, from players a million times, right? They laugh about their actions and they say things like, "Oh, they're so bad," and you know, and worse, players defend their actions by blaming the person that they're using. You know, players are selfish. It's terrible, it's sad, and truthfully, it's weak game, and it tends to attract people with whose self-esteem could use a little boost. So be careful out there. The only thing a player really knows is how to play the game. And the only thing they're looking for is someone to pawn and keep their game going. They're social and emotional hustlers. And the only thing a hustler knows is how to keep the hustle going. And don't be fooled. Players come in all shapes and sizes. Some are beautiful to look at, some are normal. So don't be fooled. And final note. Players tend to obviously know a lot of people, so if things get dirty, you're going to get trashed publicly. So if you think you've somehow become involved with a player, be very careful. They're not going to change, and you're going to pay the price. And okay, double finally. When shopping for love and romance, buy what you want, you know? If a player doesn't fulfill any of the requirements of a real relationship, so if you've got a player, just let him go. And that's it. Next, here we go. Here's the list. Number 5. Okay. A player is dressed to attract. And this is easy. It's how they look. All games begin with the first move. And a player begins with his bling. It could be how they dress, or their car, or just generally showing off their best assets. So if they have big muscles, then they'll show them off. If they have cool hair, then that's what's going to be on display. Players look well put together, but it's a different look than just dressing up nice to go out, so be careful. Alright, here's a little more to help you out on how players look. When you go to a bar or nightclub, right, and this is just an example, you know, you'll see the girls dressed up to the nines, right, standing at the bar waiting for men to buy them drinks. Well, that's what a female player looks like, okay? And in that setting, right? So if you're trying to spot a male player, you know, look for the same thing but in male form. And guys, I've heard it a million times. Women who say with pride, you know, they've never paid for a drink, right? And it begins young. I've heard women say to each other as they're going out, "I don't have any money." And one of the ones in the group will say, "Don't worry about it, we'll find some guys to buy us drinks." So be careful out there. Okay, Sonny. That's cool. But what about the real world? How do you spot a player in real life? You know, like you're really going to meet someone at the grocery store. You're a regular person. And like, let's say you do have someone does have the confidence to come up and talk to you at the gym, right? Anyways, how do you spot a player in real life? Let's say you're on a lunch date with friends and you spot someone across the room, or even better, one of your friends introduces you to someone and you feel an instantaneous connection. All right, here are the body language cues. Okay, here are the body language cues. Now, whether these actions are learned over time through trial and error, or if the person actually studied seduction with someone, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I used to teach seduction, and this is what we used to tell the guys to do. Dressing up to draw attention to yourself is called peacocking, and almost every single player does it. The player could come from any type of background, in any social standing, in any financial background, but the first thing you'll notice is some kind of bling. Bling is a great conversation starter, and it usually demonstrates confidence. You know, all points a player want working in their favor. So again, be careful. If the person you have your sights on has a favorite sweater or watch, right, that's one thing. But bling looks much different, and there'll be a mismatch somewhere in their appearance. Maybe an expensive watch with cheap shoes. And you see, the watch is the bling, but the shoes are a giveaway, right? What else? Okay, here's an example from me. I used to wear really cool shoes, you know, I'm a musician, hypnotist, I got lots of shoes, and people would comment, right, of course, but depending on what they'd say, I would know if I should proceed with them or just next them. You see, the shoes, right, they were cool, and not everyone knew what they were, and it was an easy test, just a little bit of a test, right, and it was a very subtle bling to start a conversation. If the target was savvy, then they had a chance. If they didn't know, then I gave them, you know, I just nexted them. It's an easy move. So imagine your car is bling, alright? I used to drive a pretty cool old, you know, a rare sports car, and if people knew what it was, you know, I'd be interested. And if they made fun of it, well, you know, they clearly wouldn't fit into my world anyway, so next. But here's the deal. In both examples, the bling would do its job. And that's getting the target to approach me, right? And then manipulate the situation where the subject would unknowingly be qualifying themselves to me. I know, it's sneaky, right? And it works. So, first, or rather number 5, that's what a player looks like. A player's going to have some bling. It's going to be a conversation starter, and you're going to think they're confident and cool for doing it, but it's a little bit of a trick, so be careful. Next, number 4, body language. Alright, a player has confident body language, even if they're not confident, or they're trying to fake it until they make it. They will have confident body language, and here's what it looks like. A player will take up space, you know, watch that they had taking up space. They're not necessarily going to invade yours, but they will create space around them. They stand straight, but at ease. And here's the real action. When speaking with you, they will lean back, right? Back and away from you, almost like they're judging you. Some will rock back on their heels a bit, you know, really, some will rock back and forth, giving off the impression that they could just rock out of the conversation at any moment, unless you give them a reason to stay. And you see, here's the real action on seduction and attraction, and players in general, right? First, you like what you like, right? So whatever, go for it. But seduction and being a player is different. Everything they do, a player does, is designed to have you go after them. Yes, there's an astrological answer to this, but for today, it's about what the players are taught. And that is to get you to go after them. So okay, back to body language. A player's body language is designed to have you question yourself, believe it or not. And you're probably not going to notice what's going on. When a player leans away, right, or they get ready to rock out of the conversation, you're going to wonder what's wrong with you. And that's, you know, you're going to wonder what's wrong with you that's making this guy or girl want to leave the conversation. It's interesting. Both the bling and the body language are designed to demonstrate higher value and confidence. It opens conversations, it really does. And it sets the player apart from others. And most importantly, it makes you feel like you have to do something to impress them and keep the player interested in you. Sneaky, huh? Yeah, seriously. And it works. Next, number 3, language. Remember, A player's game is cold and calculating, but it's not about logic. You know, a nice guy or a weird guy or a cool guy or just about every other guy on the planet thinks and speaks in logic, but not a player. A player's number one job is to dig right into your emotions, right away, straight up and without mercy. And because most people are emotion junkies, they fall for it. So, back to language. A player will almost always immediately begin by getting you to question yourself. They'll probably mix it up with a bit of pleasure and a pleasure-pain kind of approach thing. So they'll say something like, I love your hair, but the lipstick doesn't really match tonight, does it? Or, I love that jacket. Is there an 80s theme going on tonight? It's no big deal. And on one hand, the comments sound innocent enough, but it will dig in, and it will begin to either make you defend your decisions or second guess yourself. You know, a partner is supposed to be supportive and encouraging, not knock you down at every opportunity. And a player's the opposite. A player's job is to manipulate you by creating insecurities. And they do this with cute little put-downs, you know, like, you don't want to wear that dress, you look too good and embarrass the host of the party. You know, it's subtle, it's sneaky, it's destructive, and it's a game, right? So watch out. Watch what they're saying and how you're reacting to it. A player will speak using phrases that will have you second-guessing your decisions and justifying your actions to them. But there's a little more. You know, language goes far beyond words. And if you speak a different language to begin with, right, then the player will have to be more creative. But the actions are still the same. You know, and here's one from my book, back when I used to teach seduction. When I was younger, my go-to move was very simple and subtle, but it did the trick, and it did the trick fast. I'd simply say, you have something on your face, and then I would physically use my hand and brush it off. Doesn't sound romantic, does it? No, because it's not. But it does get the target to question herself, and she will immediately seek your approval by asking you if it's still there. And suddenly, of all the people in the room, including her friends, she's now trusting you the most, because not even her friends told her that she had something on her face when she really didn't. But she just got played and fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And for me anyways, that was hard money game, and it was my go-to move when the pressure was on. So be careful. A player's language is not necessarily engaging, and they may not actually be the best at simple conversation, you know? Everyone's game's a little different. But a player will say things that have you questioning yourself, and then seek their approval. And it's true. They will ask, you know, if you do that thing, you know, to say there's something on your face, they'll ask you if it's still there. They won't ask their friends, they'll ask you. So, if you're in a relationship and you constantly feel that you're not good enough, then either one, you really are not good enough, and you have to up your life game, you know, I don't want to spend time with someone who doesn't understand me, or two, my friend, you're with a player, so be careful. Another way it can feel like is if you feel like you're always jumping through hoops, so to speak. And I can't explain this plain enough or say it plain enough. Your partner is supposed to be encouraging and supportive, even when you're a little out to lunch. So if you feel like you're not being supported or encouraged, then it's time to pack your bags and hit the boogie, straight up. Because, my friend, you're either dating a player or you're dating an ass. And either way, it's time to make a move. Okay, recap. We've covered what a player looks like, how they physically present themselves, right? Their posture, and we've had a look at the things they say and how they structure their language. Good. Next, relationship dynamics. A player will always take the lead, and almost everyone falls for this. And it is worse than I'm saying. You know, I'm the love hypnotist, remember? I've heard this a million times, and I've even taught guys how to do it. I spent years out here in Vancouver teaching guys how to do this. When describing someone they went out with, the innocent target will say, "It was refreshing to be with someone who made all the decisions." Then the target will say, "They finally met a man." They're going to do it, and it also feels, and for them, it feels good, you know, to know or really fool yourself into thinking that the player wants you. I mean, you've seen what they're like when they want something. they go after it, right? So it's no surprise when you fool yourself into feeling that you're wanted by this type of guy or girl. It's seductive, and it plays right into most people's passive nature. But I'll say it again, relationships are a team kind of thing. It requires give and take for long-term sustainability and growth. A player, on the other hand, does things on their own terms and only calls when they want something. A real friend calls to check up on you, just to say hi. A player, on the other hand, wants something. And again, players come in all shapes and sizes. I've met tons of women players over the years, and they only want, some want money from me, or they want me to promote them, or they want to go to a cool party, and yeah, if I need a ride, I'll give them a call, but like, I already know they're trying to play me, so most of the time, I don't even answer the phone. Anyways, I hope you guys are getting the picture here. Spotting a player is not that difficult, but everyone's game is different, so you have to stay on your toes. Alright, here we go. The most important characteristics of all players, and I guess this is number 2, and this is personal time and space. When you start spending time with someone, worlds will begin to naturally collide. You'll naturally want to impress each other and slowly become bigger and bigger parts of each other's lives. This is called relationship. If you're not moving closer to each other, then you're not developing and growing the relationship. And if you're not doing that, then you're just playing. And this is the point we hear about the most. A player, they don't make time for you. They make excuses. They cancel at the last moment, They change. And this means things will slowly shift from going to cool and exciting places, fun dates that hooked you in, to something boring, lame, and most importantly, cheap. It'll be a reflection of what the player thinks of you, but there will be a change. Just keep your eyes open. Remember, a player isn't just in it for the hunt. They want something from you. Whatever it is, again, stay on your toes. What else? Players, they don't want to meet your friends. They might meet your... players don't want you to meet their friends. They might meet yours, to make you happy, but they don't want you meeting theirs. I know it sounds like a bit much, but really it's not. It happens all of the time. And here's what gets mental about it. A player could be married and you wouldn't even know, right? It happens all the time. Okay, another recap. In a relationship, your worlds, meaning your lives and things you do, will begin to come together. You'll go and watch them play softball on the weekend, I used to watch Zing train in sword fighting every Friday night, She'd be fighting away, and I'd be sitting there writing the horoscopes, It was cute. But you see, we were becoming part of each other's lives. And back when I was married, I'd go watch Speedy play hockey all the time, right? Sometimes they'd even play in our pickup games with their friends. We joined our worlds. If you're being played, you'll only be invited if the player wants something. I get invited to watch people perform all the time. Not because they want to spend time with me, but because they want me to promote their shows, right? Like, it gets on my nerves, right? But keep your eyes open, be careful, right? Here we go. Finally, the number 1. The last major characteristic of a player is selfishness. In addition to worlds colliding, relationships have give and take. This means you do some of the things you want to do and you do some of the things they want to do. But there's more. To test a player, you have to take the lead, right? Players are always hiding something. And you're probably not going to find out what it is by asking. But you can cover through uncover the truth through serendipitous exploration. What? English much, Sonny? Alright, what does it mean? It means you gotta take the lead. Start making suggestions. Get off your lazy relationship butt and speak up. It's intoxicating at the beginning. It really is, to let the player do all of the thinking and planning and let them steer the ship, so to speak. But if you let the players steer the ship entirely on their own, don't be surprised when the ship doesn't end up where you wanted it to go. I'm just saying. Anyways, that's not the point. A player will steer the ship, the relationship, away from things they don't want you to know. So, not that you're trying to catch your partner in a lie or anything, but start suggesting things you want to do. Your partner's supposed to want to spend time with you. So if they balk at the suggestion, there's a reason why. And it's up to you to find out. Players are selfish control freaks, and they're always calling the shots. Then, if players are always calling the shots, then you're not in a relationship of give and take. You're just tagging along for the ride. And as always, the player will continue to treat you like that. It's not a partnership, it's tagging along. So be careful, and I can't say this enough. A player is selfish and always trying to control the situation. It's just the way it is. So, how to spot a player? Okay, we covered how a player dresses, how they present themselves. We covered their body language and how they communicate, both verbally and non-verbally. Hey, what just happened here? Where did it go? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, verbally and non-verbally. We covered what's supposed to happen in a relationship and how our player will change this to their favor, to keep the game going. And finally, we looked at a player's most overriding characteristic and how to break open their game by speaking up and taking the lead. And that's the action, guys. I hope this helps. Once again, selfish, players are selfish, right? They come in all shapes and sizes. And yeah, I used to teach this stuff when I was younger. So if you're serious about helping a friend out who you think might be being played, you might want to share this video on Facebook or on a YouTube playlist. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Woo! And if you haven't yet, if yet, of course, leave all the questions and comments in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to address them in the weekly Love Horoscopes video. And finally, if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, what the holy smokes? Push the subscribe button and get notified when the weekly Love Horoscopes come out. And that's the action. That's how you spot a player. It's how they look, it's how they behave, it's what they're doing, and that's how you break their game wide open. Alright? Hope everybody's cool with this. Remember, love is everywhere if you know where to look. It's not as bad as I say it is, but if you get the wrong one, it's bad. So be cool. And that's the action. From thesunnyside.net, I'm Sunny, wishing everyone the absolute best of a beautiful week. I really do hope you find true love, and I'll see you soon.